and Myrtle Beach wholesaler Southern Crown Partners Incorporated know our consumers enjoy relaxing days on the water with Mick Ultra's crisp and refreshing taste in hand. It's important to remember to drink and boat responsibly. Choose to be or to designate a sober skipper before leaving the dock. Do it for your family and friends, your passengers, and everyone else on board. Michelob Ultra salutes all sober skippers who take the pledge. Cheers, and we'll see you on the water.
In Myrtle Beach, you always go at your own pace. Lie out on the sand, lie out by the pool, go boogie boarding, go surfing, walk the boardwalk, walk the marsh walk, golf at one of 90 golf courses, mini golf at one of 50 mini golf courses, fish off a pier, fish from a chartered boat, go shopping, get drinks, eat the freshest seafood. The list is exhaustive, but the experience isn't. You can go all out or do nothing at all. How you relax is up to you. There is so much to do and explore, whether you're traveling with friends, family, or just yourself. With 60 miles of beach, you're going to find your place. If this sounds like what you need, then this is where you belong.
Trilogy Outdoors.
All right, folks, welcome to Trilogy Outdoors Podcast. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Hope everybody had a wonderful holidays and very safe and enjoyable Happy New Year's. Actually, for the first time in many years, I can say that I got to watch balls drop other than mine. And that was nice to finally stay awake through midnight. We were over at a friend's house, and at 10:30, we decided we were there. We were pregnant. We were going to go ahead and have the baby. We made it through midnight, and it was a long day on the first, I'll say that much. But at any rate.
Not me, buddy. I was in bed at 9:30.
You're a smart man. Trust me, originally that was my plan. But we had a great time. I had a wonderful holidays. We spent a lot of time with the family. I know you had all your family at various times throughout the holidays and in-laws and outlaws and everything else. But we did sneak out this week and got to go fishing. The senator and I did, and I'll just say this much: when you are going to do something that is as precise as deep dropping, make sure you double check and that you have all your tackle when you leave.
Well, and I will take full responsibility.
No, that's my fault. I jumped in the truck.
It's not. I mean, okay, we can both take responsibility, but I was responsible for bringing the deep drop stuff.
Well, here's the deal. The problem with the whole situation is you and I both have the same tackle bag.
That's exactly what the problem was.
We do. And you looked and saw mine and thought it was yours.
So as we were unloading my truck and putting stuff in the boat at 5 a.m. yesterday, Inglis and I were both unloading, and I thought when I was putting stuff on the boat, Inglis was putting stuff on the boat, and when I was on the boat, I had put my bag and everything and had gotten on the boat, and I looked down, and in the floor of the boat was a gray Plano tackle bag, which looks just like my gray Plano because we both won this tackle bag at a tournament.
Yep.
And I thought that was my tackle bag, and it had all of my deep drop weights, it had all of my deep drop jigs, it had all of my deep drop rigs, it had all of my hooks, it had everything. Swivels, everything, and my lights, my deep drop lights, and we get out to 500.
Here we go. Are you already going to start telling people your top secret new deep dropping light?
500 or 600 feet of water, and we opened that bag, that Plano bag, and it's Inglis's tackle bag with none of my stuff in it. And so we've got a deep drop rod and no deep drop weights and no deep drop light and no deep drop rigs. And we've already committed, as Inglis said earlier, we were already pregnant. So we had already committed. We had driven offshore and wrong bag. And so we proceeded to Redneck Engineer.
Man, I'm telling you, we did some – that was I mean, I'm just going to say this much, other than the fact that it costs a lot of money at the end of the day.
It did.
I'm going to say that it looked like a dang good rig to me. I wish we'd have got some pictures of it.
We should have taken pictures of it. But so basically what it was we took the biggest leader material we could find, which I think English had 100 pounds.
100 pounds.
100 pounds, which is too light for deep dropping. But
Anyway,
100 pounds. I tied a giant chicken rig, basically. We hooked trolling weights, Wahoo trolling weights.
Yep.
Like 2 or 3 Wahoo trolling weights to the bottom of it.
Yep.
We took whatever hooks Inglis had in his bag
and
put them on the chicken rigs.
Yep.
And then I double Ziploc bagged my headlamp, which has a flashing red light on it in a certain mode. Double Ziploc bagged my headlamp. And
then rubber banded it with like 4 rubber bands.
Rubber banded it with 4 rubber bands and rubber banded it to the top of the rig. Okay, this thing looked so ghetto.
It did.
I don't know how to describe it to you, but anyway, I think first drop we caught a tilefish.
Yes, first drop. First drop we caught a tilefish, and obviously we have to send a lot of these fish back that aren't legal this time of year, regrettably, because we know that a lot of them die. But we caught a lot of fish despite not having a light, because the light did flood immediately. Even though double Ziploc bag, it was because of Inglis's cheap Walmart version of the Ziploc. I knew it. I knew it was coming to me. My True Value Ziploc bag.
Had they been the Ziploc brand, I'm sure they would have withstood the 500 or 600 feet.
This segment was brought to you by Ziploc.
Yes, 500 or 600 feet of pressure. So despite all of our problems, we eked out a few fish out there. Yep. Eked out a few fish.
Can we talk about some of the
not nearly what we should.
I was getting ready to say, can we talk about some of the species? And then hang on, I went, okay, Vermilion snapper.
Just big, giant beeliners.
Giant beeliners.
Yeah, one after, which, are beeliners are good.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really like, it's not, I mean, that's why they call them beeliners. They're basket liners. They're not really a target species, but they're good eating. And when you're catching them at like 3 pounds, 2-3 pounds a piece, they add up quick. And so, we never got into any like big fish. I was hoping to catch a barrelfish or 2 on some of those numbers. Those are good barrelfish numbers, and we never got into barrelfish.
And I've never seen one, so I was really kind of excited because I think we brought it up on the show. No, it was in the radio show last week.
Yeah,
we brought up
with Tiger
the slime.
Yeah, the slime, the thick slime. Yeah, and that number we went to actually called it the barrelfish number. It's on my GPS barrelfish number, but never got into the barrelfish. It could have been the ghetto-looking rig that we had, but we never got into barrelfish. We did fill the box with lots of sort of random bottom dwellers out there, and they're all good to eat. So happy to have gone.
Yep, at least we went, and the weatherman somewhat missed the forecast, but
it was good inshore.
I was not complaining one bit because the last time I went out, I absolutely got my brains beat out and swore I would never go back again until it was forecasted to be beautiful. And the forecast for yesterday originally looked beautiful. It did.
Yeah.
Now, I will say you're right. When we came back inshore to try and get some other stuff, it was slick.
As soon as we got to the break, it slicked off.
Yep.
I mean, offshore, 500-600 foot, there were some swells out there and 3-4 foot swells out there, but it wasn't bad.
Here's that's my first, other than going commercially with Chris Conklin a couple times. That was my first experience recreational deep dropping. And I know after about 45 minutes to an hour and after making 4 moves, you were kind of getting frustrated. And I think you kept keying in on the fact that you felt like we were not spending enough time. We didn't do enough to figure out the current and that we were working against ourselves. And did I mention to everybody that we were hand cranking? You even left out that you left the plug for the electric reel.
Right. So no plug.
So by the way, we are hand cranking every time we drop.
Yeah. So it took everything. Yeah. I mean, nothing was efficient. Right. And that created the, the problem that we ultimately had. And everything about deep dropping is efficiency.
Yeah.
Like you want to get to the bottom as quickly
quick.
as possible, right? Your weight system needs to be cylindrical so that it cuts through the water quickly.
Yep.
We had a gom of lead, like if imagine a 2-pound cardboard box and just lead laying all in it, right?
Yep.
I mean, we had a gom of lead tied together. And by the time our lead got to the bottom, it was, 100 feet behind the boat probably.
Right.
With the tide running the way it was. We didn't have a light, and I've never been successful deep dropping without a light. So, yeah, we had a lot of stuff working against us, but we had fun, right? I mean, we got to get offshore, and we had fun, and we did catch some fish at the end of the day, and we're going to eat well in the next couple of days. So it was
yeah.
good despite all the problems. The issue with deep dropping, honestly, you've got to look at that bottom real carefully. And a lot of people, and I'll tell you this too, and I'm not beating up on the guy. I was honored to be on the boat. Okay, I'm not beating up on the guy or his boat. Mm-hmm. But the bottom machine setup he had was not designed for deep dropping.
No, it wasn't.
It's never.
We know that.
Yeah, and everybody, we knew that going into it, and reading the bottom on that machine was a challenge. It had glitches, and it was a challenge. And so when you add the current problem with the light problem, with the lead problem, with unable to read the bottom really well, all of those inefficiencies came together. And despite all those inefficiencies, we still did okay. But what I was going to say, the important part about deep dropping, and I think the most important part about deep dropping, is figuring out the bottom and exactly where the ledge is, okay? Let's just talk about grouper species.
Right. What we were fishing was trying to fish a ledge. We were trying to fish a ledge, and the bait that your goal was to get the bait on the ledge or on the edge?
On the deep end of the ledge.
Okay.
That's always where, at least from my observations, I'm diving, okay, which I think gives me a little better perspective.
Way better perspective.
Than most. Certain species, most of the species that are target species, will be on the deep end of the down tide side of the ledge.
Right.
Okay, you put all that stuff together in your head. The deep end of the down tide side of the ledge. Almost all the time. Almost all the time, okay? So if you got a 30-foot ledge in 500 feet of water, 530 foot is where you want to be, right on the side of that ledge. Like it's close. So you run over the ledge and you see it go from 530 to 500. You want to throw it right into reverse.
Yep.
You want to back up 10 or 15 feet, and you want to try to drop right there on the downtide side of that ledge. And so it requires 3 or 4 circles around that ledge to sort of map it out and to figure it out. And when you're in 500 plus feet of water, a lot of times you'll see on that bottom machine, you'll see a blow up, and it'll be, a bunch of fish, whatever. It'll be a bunch of fish. It's a blow up, and you think, aha, there's the ledge. And you drop on it, and you realize, oh, crap, that's not the ledge. That's a bunch of bait fish, or that's a bunch of amberjack, or that's a whatever, a bunch of beeliners. And you've made the mistake, a 15, 20-minute mistake, because it takes that long to get your bait rigged up to the bottom and then back up. At least a 15, 20-minute mistake, sometimes a 30-minute mistake.
Yep.
That you've dropped on a bunch of bait fish instead of on the ledge. With a bottom machine that doesn't read real well, you can make that mistake a lot. You've got to really pay attention to those numbers on the screen. And when that number jumps from 500 to 530, you want to be right on that break. And that goes. That's not just for deep dropping, but it's especially for deep dropping because there's a lot less of a room for error out there. When you're inshore, what I mean by inshore is, let's say, inside of the break.
Right.
200 feet or less inside of the break. When you're inside of the break, 180 feet or less. When you're inside the break, bottom fishing, same principle. A lot of people think the grouper and snapper are staged 15 or 20 feet off of the ledge. And that may be true, okay? In some cases, that may be true. I've seen them diving where on a really good spot, you'll see the grouper and the snapper really staged all the way up almost to the water, to the top of the water. But they're on the bottom feeding a lot of that time. They'll be hanging out up there, but they'll go down. They'll follow bait down to the bottom, and they'll eat it on the bottom.
Right.
And so if you're hand cranking 20 feet off the bottom, you're more likely to get hit by an amberjack or by a triggerfish than you are by a grouper or a snapper. You really need to be on that bottom, maybe a crank off the bottom. I don't even like to be a crank off the bottom, honestly, because I think that lead swinging in the tide creates interference, and they look at it and they're sort of curious or nervous about what that is. I don't even like my lead to be off the bottom. I like to have just enough pressure on that rod where I can feel the lead on the bottom, and I can feel the hook, being tugged. And what I told English yesterday, what I call it the heavy head. You can tell peck, 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 peck. That's not the fish I want. And then you can feel heavy head.
Boom. Yep.
And then that, whoo, that. How do you describe that? Oh. I call it heavy head, but there's got to be a better way to describe it.
You're right. I've always called it, like, even with flounder, with trout, but more so with grouper or something along that. I've always just said, like, I love to feel the rod load up. And when I say that, just like if I'm throwing a crankbait at a bass and you're coming through and you feel that vibration, shaking, and then all of a sudden it kind of just stops, and then you feel the end of that rod just start going, and you set the hook. Same thing with the grouper. But that freight train that I caught was just unbelievable. And, I think we probably had another one close to that size on. I think sure. Woody probably did.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the thing. And I fished with Woody for 10 years now almost. I think we almost had our 10-year anniversary, or it's coming up in March. But I fished with Woody a lot. And we fished a lot, and Woody will agree with me. We don't have the best of luck most of the times when we go. But I think the other thing is, the importance in catching a grouper, I think the first 10 seconds are the most important part of the fight.
Absolutely.
And you weren't being aggressive, but you were like, all right, Woody, reel, Woody, reel, because you got to get him away from that ledge.
You got to get him off the bottom.
That's all he's trying to do is get in that ledge.
He wants to get back to that hole, and if you don't get him 10 or 15 feet off the wreck or the hole, then you're done. If we're talking about a big fish, right?
Right.
You can horse an 8-pound grouper, but if you're talking about a 30 or a 40-pound grouper or snapper for that matter, if you don't get him 10 or 15 feet off the structure, you're in trouble.
I think we both guesstimated on the big one that we caught yesterday, somewhere between 30, 35, 30 to 40. I think we took a measurement. You got a measurement, and
40 inches is what he measured. And, y'all, that's a big grouper.
Yeah. Biggest I've ever caught.
That's a big grouper. And the reason why I think Woody's was a big grouper too, it's exactly the same spot.
Yep.
And this time of year in the winter, when you catch one, there's a
multiple.
There's a dozen more right there. And they're grouper will usually hang out in the same weight class too. So
now, do they mate back in the fall, right? They're typically mate in the fall?
My understanding is they're moving in for breeding.
Right now.
So from like you'll start seeing heavy movement in like October through, and then, they start turning around and heading back in March.
Yep.
So, in the heat of the months, that doesn't make any sense. In the hottest of months, you'll find the big breeder, let's just say grouper,
right?
Gags and scamps. You'll find the big breeder grouper offshore in 200 feet of water, 180 to 200 feet of water. And then come October, you start seeing those big grouper, the really big breeder grouper in 130 feet of water.
Right.
In November, you'll see them in 100 feet of water. In December, in 100 to 80 feet of water. In January, same thing. They're just sort of pushing in. The biggest of the fish will stay a little deeper than the big massive fish that are coming inshore right now, which is probably why we caught that big fish out in, what did we catch them in, 95 feet of water?
Yep.
Yeah. And
that was right.
And so I think there was a school of them there that were that size. I mean, I caught one right after you that was not nearly that size,
but a good one.
But what anybody on any day would say is a big grouper.
Yeah.
It's just that it was a small grouper because it came in after yours.
Yep.
Right. That's the only reason it was a small grouper. But yeah, now this is one of the better times of year for bottom fishing if you can figure out what's legal. You got to bring your lawyer with you.
Got to bring your lawyer, and you got
with you on the boat. But the bottom fishing this time of year is off the chain.
Which app is it? Just the best app, do you think? I mean, the DNR app does not go into that. So
no, I've got one. It's called Fish Rules. I'm trying to pull.
That's right, Fish Rules.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up right now, and let's see if I can. Did I say the right fish? Yeah, Fish Rules.
Yeah, Fish Rules.
It's a blue background with like a black-looking grouper, like shadowed in the background. And what you need to do before you go every time is you gotta pull the app up and let it download the latest stuff, and then you go. And when you're offshore, if you pull your app up for the first time in 6 months, when you're offshore, it's going to be reading the last group of updates. The last time you opened it when you had Wi-Fi or internet connection. So you don't do that, because if you're reading that you got a grouper species that's open offshore and you get inshore and your app updates because you just got internet service, you're in trouble. You could be in trouble. So just be careful about that.
Well, there you go, right there. This is telling me. So I just clicked. I actually had the app. I didn't know it. I know. One of our wonderful writers in the magazine, BB Dalton, I think she does some work with this app. And so it's telling me right now, amberjack, barracuda, bass, or no, this is in alphabetical order, but this isn't. So where do I find what's open? Where do I go to for identify your fish?
I just go. I've never done it like that. I just go to saltwater and then I just scroll down and find the fish on.
And find the fish and just click on it.
And just click on it.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it'll tell you open, closed, what the limit is.
Yep.
Yeah. Boat limit, person limit. So right now, really we were looking for yellow edge offshore.
Yep.
And that's really one of the only grouper species offshore that's open right now is yellow edge. Bag limit 3 in the South Atlantic. Bag limit 3, aggregate 3.
And I'm looking at file fish, and I'm looking to see if they've got our buddy in there for catching the world record. Sprinkles.
Oh, yeah, I forgot he caught the world record.
Yeah, Captain Will caught the world record, but it's not coming up, but that's pretty awesome. Well, I'll tell you, a lot of me says that we could have stayed inshore because Jason Burton texted me and said that yesterday he ran his first trip of 2024, and that he caught one young man had never caught a saltwater species. That young man caught five true inshore slams: black drum, red drum, trout, and flounder.
Good, excellent. 5
of them. Said the inshore fish were biting. So.
Well, I mean, look, hindsight's always 20/20.
Well, we were going to high speed, and we did for a little while, and we got one bite and didn't stay connected. And I'm just going to tell you the truth. Like, when I'm hearing all the guys talking about bonita and barracuda, I don't get excited.
And sharks.
Look,
I mean,
let's talk about how many fish we lost to sharks.
I never miss an opportunity.
How many trolling sinkers we lost to sharks.
Yeah, I mean, I never miss an opportunity to talk about sharks. Y'all, the sharks are just out of control right now.
They are.
I don't know, a lot. I don't know, but a lot of fish were lost to sharks. And the fish that weren't lost to sharks, we were constantly fighting to get them to the top so they wouldn't get lost to the sharks, because the sharks would follow them right up to the boat. And the guys that were high-speed trolling were fighting sharks the whole time.
They were losing fish. Sconier said, they were losing countless fish to sharks.
He said he lost, I think Sconier said he lost 7 cedar plugs.
7 cedar plugs.
Yeah, so now whether or not that's a fish that hit the cedar plug and then a shark hit the fish and ripped the whole thing to shreds, or a shark hit the cedar plug, I don't know. Probably blackfin, if I had to guess. That's usually the way it works, is a blackfin hits the cedar plug, and then the shark comes and destroys it all.
They're picky eaters, man. They like the good stuff. Why won't they hit when you got a barracuda on?
They won't eat a barracuda as easily. They love a blackfin, though.
Yep.
There's just, I guess that, you cut him in the least bit, and they just bleed like crazy, and they're just pumping that blood out. And so I think blackfins are, and they have that, that wobble to their swim as well, which I think when they get caught and they do that fast twitch wobble in the water, to me, that just like it's calling sharks from miles around.
Yep.
And they were super thick. Offshore in the deep drop water, they were super thick, and at the break, they were super thick. And it's just getting worse and worse.
One of our recent guests, Brant McMullen, Ocean Isle Fishing Center, has started and trying to open a line of communication with NOAA and about the sharks and the situation with the sharks. Obviously, North Carolina, they're dealing with them bad. I'll tell you that we dealt with it when we were king mackerel fishing. We saw how bad they could be. Had several kings on in the middle of that fight that with a king. I mean, yeah, he's going to run a little bit, and then all of a sudden, a nonstop just burning the drag down. Like the fish did not just eat a box of Wheaties.
Right.
And the same thing. But he has talked about it, and he truly believes that those sharks have, albeit God, Mother Nature, has designed them. When they hear the sound of a boat motor, they know that it's dinner time.
I believe.
And they actually come to that area based on that.
Yeah, I totally believe that. There are places in the last couple of years that have just become outrageously bad with sharks, and the Georgetown Hole and the Winyall Scarp are two of those places. Like, you can fish in between the Georgetown Hole and the Winyall Scarp and not run into half as many sharks as you do in the hole or in the scarp. And I think that's got to be because they've just been trained that they can eat fish off the end of somebody's hook every time that they're in those two places. Certainly the artificial reefs are like that as well, right? I mean, if you're one of these people that fishes artificial reefs every weekend, I haven't fished one in a long time, but those places have got to be just feeding grounds for, I would think, tigers and bulls and duskies.
Bulls have been bad. That you said that dude. I know I'm terrible about guesstimating size and length. You think that shark, that bull? Would it be safe to say that last bull that came up and actually, well, never mind. But that last bull that came up, do you feel? Am I overshooting it if I say 9 to 10 foot long?
No, yeah, he was easy 9 foot. Yeah, I don't know if he was 10, but. Usually when they get about 10, they start getting that really girthy. He still had that long, slender look to him. But, yeah, he was probably 9 foot long.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably 9 foot long and not scared of the boat in the least bit.
No, I thought he was going to bite the trolling motor.
He came right up behind the fish. We got the fish out of the water before he ate the fish, and then he just sat right beside the boat, like waiting on us to drop a fish in.
Yep.
Right? And then ran up underneath the trolling motor, and then a can blew out. Somebody had torn a can.
Yep.
It blew out, and he
hit it.
Ran up behind the boat and tried to eat the can. And just incredible the amount of interaction that we're having with sharks nowadays.
And it's only going to get worse.
And what's the solution, Inglis? Like,
I don't know, because I keep hearing people saying something about reopening sharks. Like I never targeted sharks prior. I'll just say that I never did.
Yeah.
But Brant said that they need to open up shark fishing and open it back up.
I wonder if that will help. Like that's my question when I say, like, what can we do? Will opening shark fishing back up help? I mean, like, really back up help? Because I never went targeting them. I never went fishing them. Are we talking about the Chinese?
Thank you. That's what I'm saying.
Are we talking about?
Are you talking about cutting their?
Offering our fisheries to the Chinese to come and cut their fins off.
Yep.
Because that seems like that's going to backlash as well. Although right now I'm sort of agreeable to it, but I don't really want a Chinese fleet fishing our waters either, right? Like,
right.
And will our guys commercially, would an American fleet commercially target sharks to sell fins to the Asian market? I don't know. I mean, that's just a weird thing, but I know from personal observation. Now, the scientists will call that anecdotal, right?
Right.
But from personal observation, we've got a shark problem.
I'm going to catch a hard time for this, but how about if we did it like they did the cormorant season on the Santee, where you just dispose of them?
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I must say, that was as unsportsmanlike and as unethical a policy as you could have, but they need to continue on. If you haven't been to Santee lately to seen all the cormorants that are out there.
Oh, they'll destroy a dock.
Yeah.
I mean, the same way on the coast in a lot of places. I mean, we used to live in Allendale and had a 760-foot dock, okay, on the waterway there. And from the tide line out to the floating dock, you couldn't see a piece of wood.
Yep.
Cormorant, seagull, cormorant. And I'm talking about covered in 2 inches of bird crap.
Yep.
For 9 months out the year, right? And, I mean, people put owls and wolves and bears, stuffed bears, and, you're shooting bird bombs out there at them, and, there's, like, all kinds of stuff to try to prevent them. At the end of the day, I mean, shooting them with the shotgun is, it's a solution that works.
It works. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I know you were probably involved in that. That would have been when you were in Senate, right?
Yeah, the DNR actually asked for it.
Right.
It wasn't really even on my radar that it was a thing. I mean, I just, it's one of those things nobody would kill because you can't eat it. Is what I always thought. And then it sort of makes sense. Like, they're doing real property damage in the same way that hogs do real property damage. I know some people eat hogs. I've eaten hogs. But there's a lot of times I'll shoot a hog and let it lay because, it's doing property damage. I see it as an invasive sort of species.
Yep.
And so I don't have a problem letting a hog lay. I don't have a conscience over that, right? Like I would a deer or a turkey or something like that. I could never shoot a deer and let it lay. Right. Even if I hit a deer with my car, unless it's absolutely destroyed, I'm probably going to go back and cut the back straps.
I've done it. I got the back straps out of her.
Absolutely. Yep. I just feel like that's the right thing to do. I wouldn't have a problem shooting a hog and letting it lay. I don't. I've done it. I wouldn't have a problem. And in the same way, if my dock or my house or my whatever is being destroyed by a cormorant, I wouldn't have a problem shooting a cormorant and letting it lay.
Nope.
Because that's property damage. That's different than an animal just living its life. That's a real problem. Sharks are almost in the same category, or maybe in the same category now to me, because they have they've created an environment where it's very difficult to engage in fishing offshore. Nowadays.
Well, I'm just going to say this. Okay, so underwater is their environment. It's their world, blah, blah, blah. You shouldn't get in it, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, well, Santee is the cormorant's world, and you shouldn't be in it. And if you got a problem, then kill them, blah, 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 whatever. But at the end of the day, when it becomes continual dangerous situations for you as a diver or for other divers, whatever, now going onto these reefs and dealing with these bull sharks and other species, but there becomes a time when we have to do something. And
yeah, like I want sharks on the landscape. I think that's good.
Yes.
Right. But there's a clear indication to me when they're overpopulated, and when you have encounter after encounter every single time you go, it feels like they're overpopulated, and it feels like they're creating problems.
It feels like they've become pack hunters more so than they were before. I thought they were all territorial, and I know different species, do different things, but I thought they were territorial. But now it almost sounds like they are pack hunters, and
I don't mind. I would not mind losing a fish to a shark once in a while, right? Like, that's the tax man. He's got to take it, right? And that's okay. I'll forgive him, right?
Yep.
But every single fishing trip, like 20, 30 fish in a fishing trip,
yep,
that it's becoming unreasonable, the amount of tax, right? That we're being taxed at the rate that the British were being taxed at during the Revolution. It's becoming unreasonable, and it's about time to start having the Tea Party. And I don't know what the solution is, because I've never targeted them. Like I said before, I've never targeted them. I know you can eat mako, right? You can eat mako.
I heard it's incredible.
It is good. I've had it. You can eat mako. They don't pee through their skin like the rest of the sharks do. But a lot of the other sharks pee through their skin, and so their meat, I don't think, is very good. So the only thing a shark as far as I know, that a shark is good for is fin soup. And is that going to be one of these, existential fights among animal lovers and fishermen, reasonable fishermen?
I know a lot of people that will say that, they have taken whatever shark, whichever species you want to call it, mostly coastal sharp noses, I'll just say, on some charters, that they take them and said, oh, if you let it sit for 24 hours in buttermilk or something, like it pulls it all out. If I got to do that, why do I want to eat it?
Yeah, I mean, I could probably make a dog turd taste pretty good. Hard enough.
Just wrap bacon around it and cook it.
Yeah, but I mean, the meat's soaked in pee.
Yep.
Right? I mean, it's literally soaked in pee.
Yep.
And it smells like it. I don't want any part of that.
No.
So there's got to be some solution. And I don't, honestly, I don't know what it is right now.
Hey, what's your ideas of solution? Why don't you shoot us up? Hit us up. Send us your, if you've had any interactions with sharks or you disagree with us, hit us up at trilogyoutdoorsmedia@gmail.com or go to our Facebook, send us a message. We'd love to hear from you this year. We really want to get interactive with you guys out there. So let us know. If there's a topic you want to hear, trust me, between the two of us, we can pretty much find somebody to cover about everything, except Fat Lighter, apparently. So I've been asking for a month and a half. But, no, hit us up with that. Let us hear your thoughts on it, because I do think that it's something that a lot of us as anglers are seeing the issues with it, and it's not just offshore. It is inshore, too. And Fred Rourke, we'll have him on the next couple months. I want to have him on next month, or this month for sure, to talk about redfish and talk about what's going on in Georgetown and North Inlet in particular with that inshore redfish bite.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that, because this is the time of the year to get out and enjoy it. You've been down there. Yep. But any other big things you want to cover or anything?
No, I don't think so. I had a good time. Appreciate you inviting me yesterday.
Yeah, man, it was a blast, and always great to go fishing with you and get on the boat and have you stay in the boat the entire time. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
It keeps my nerves a little bit better. Right. Well, listen, we're going to come back on the other side of break, and I've got some good friends. Our Fishing Chaos buddies are going to join us, John and Jesse. We're going to talk a little bit about Fishing Chaos and talk about how it's going to help us with the Grand Strand Fishing Rodeo and other things that we may have coming up in 2024. So let's go see what's happening at Freeman Boat Works right now. And we come back on the other side of the break. We'll have those guys joining us from Fishing Chaos. Freeman Boat Works and Trilogy Outdoors are proud to announce the addition of Freeman Boat Works to our family of incredible partners. Billy Freeman and his team at Freeman Boat Works epitomize the American dream. From building the first boat in Billy's backyard to a 150,000 square foot state-of-the-art manufacturing plant over the past 15 years, they are building one of the most sought-after boats in the U.S. and beyond. These incredible fishing platforms are built in South Carolina and are second to none in stability, speed, and performance overall. These catamaran designs are engineered not only to get you to the fish fast, but comfortably too. Years of refining designs and pioneering the modern performance fishing catamaran is why Freeman Boat Works is the #1 choice for some of the biggest names in the fishing industry. If it's long runs in the Gulf or the Carolinas, or days you can go fishing in South Florida when most center consoles stay at the dock, Freeman Boat Works is at the forefront in all categories. For more information on Freeman Boat Works and their 6 available models, visit www.freemanboatworks.com. Redefine your expectations. All right, we're back here in Trilogy Outdoors podcast in the studio, and the Senator and I obviously had a great fishing trip, but now we're going to talk about how, I'm going to say it, how my life is going to get easier. We are actually joined now by Jesse Wilson and John Calagraz of Fishing Chaos. Now, we all know what chaos is when it comes to fishing, and we all live it. Stephen and I lived it yesterday, thanks to him for getting the tackle box in the back of his truck. Or maybe it can be my fault that I stood up in the back of the truck and grabbed everything and didn't grab his tackle box. But regardless, these guys are going to help us out, but they can help you out too. And Jesse, John, thank you guys for joining us today.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Man, listen, it's funny because I had a kayaker come up to me about 4 months ago who's a big participant in our Grand Strand Fishing Rodeo. And he said, man, you got to go check out this app. You got to go check out this app. So I went and checked it out. And I think it was about 3 days later, I called Jesse or texted Jesse or messaged Jesse or something. We figured out how to get in touch with Jesse, and we started talking and opened up communication about the service and the products that you guys offer. And I'm super excited to announce that I think officially now we can say that we are going to be working with Fishing Chaos in the 2024 Grand Strand Fishing Rodeo.
Yeah.
And want to thank you guys so much.
No, we appreciate it.
Well, let's talk about it. John, you guys, listen, you do a lot more than just this app and helping out the fishermen and the tournament directors and everything else. But let's talk real quick. Just give our listeners a quick rundown on exactly what Fishing Chaos is, where it came from, and why in the world would any tournament director want to call you or call Jesse and get set up with y'all?
Sure. Well, we're a tech company in the fishing world. We started multiple years ago with actually a piece of hardware. So we're a bunch of engineers, and we came from the IoT world. We created devices and platforms for multiple large brands like Samsung and Comcast and a lot of corporate companies, and did that for 15 years and sort of got tired of that corporate world and wanted to do more of the things I loved, and sort of saw the need for efficiency in the fishing world. And like you said, chaos, it's, you hit the nail on the head with how the name came to be, because there's a lot of chaos in fishing, and being in the back of a sport fisher when you got 3 sailfish on is really where it came from, because it is chaos in the back of that boat. But we are saltwater guys, and we have really seen the need for not only efficiency in the fishing world, but also technology. And so we've merged the two together. And the biggest, sort of product we have right now post COVID is our tournament and our club and trail management. And with that, we have almost hit the 30,000 tournament management, or the tournaments managed under our platform. And we're super excited to have you guys on board.
Man, I'll tell you what, we are excited, and our number one complaint for the rodeo last year was the angler and our weigh stations having some difficulties with getting the content out there, getting the weights out there, and just from spending 20 minutes going over your app and your website and just looking at all that, the simplicity of it is going to be so much better. But it's also going to be the fact that Joe Blow over here, who catches, this huge fish, is going to be sharing that. And then the next thing you know, his buddies are looking like, oh, you're in a tournament right now? And they're going to be able to go straight to your app and get signed up. And we're looking forward to it. And I know our sponsors will be looking forward to it too, because we're going to add a whole new dimension when it comes to that. But the main thing is making it a lot more simple, a lot more idiot-proof for our anglers and for our weigh stations, and there's no doubt that this is going to help with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we actually, 2024, one of the goals we have is to focus on a lot of the challenges in the fishing industry. And you talked about a couple right there. We're sort of in the middle between the fishermen and the tournament and the sponsors. And we've seen sort of a challenge between both of them, especially this year. And, in the bass world specifically, you're going to see a lot of, or you already you've seen a lot of sponsors that are not necessarily going that typical route of sponsoring, the pro angler. They're more sponsoring that influencer or that YouTuber. It's because the impressions and the views. And so we're not only working with the content creators, but we're also sort of allowing the tournaments and the professional anglers to be that content creator. And so now you guys, your leaderboards will be content. And in our catch photo release style tournaments, every single entry comes with, a photo and possibly video pretty soon. And so you're constantly looking at this leaderboard. We just finished a tournament in Lake Martin where it had Logan Parks, one of the newly qualified elite anglers for bass. And he ran a tournament that was really unique. It had a college kid with a high school kid, and they did a full draft system. And it was a one-day tournament. And the way he did it, it was a catch, weigh, release, all fish count, and he had over 100,000 views on his leaderboard, which those sponsors really enjoyed because they got not only the visibility, which they've never had before in a bass tournament, because it was always a 3-hour process for walking across the stage. They got that visibility into it, and they also got those clickable actions on the banners on the leaderboard itself in the app.
Wow. I know we had talked about some bass stuff, and I'm just having a little brain part here, but not a brain part, but I just had so if we did, if we're okay, for those out there listening, Great Australian Fishing Rodeo, we left out redfish last year. We left out bass. But with bass, if we did this, if we did the catch, photo, release thing, do you do it on one fish? You do it on 5 fish? And could they, throughout the year, can your 5 fish, and I'm just throwing this out there, I'm thinking, obviously on the podcast, here we go, but could you take those 5 fish and be fish that you catch in January, March, April, and put them together? Is that common?
Those are all doable, yeah. You can set up the leaderboards. You have full configuration power on the back end with it. So you can set up a leaderboard to be 5 fish, 10 fish, 7 fish, however you want it, or 1 fish. And then if you want to, you could actually have a winner per month. And then we have a combination of leaderboards. So you could combine all of those leaderboards and have an overall of all month aggregated together.
Mm-hmm. And do you collect metadata on these pictures as well, so that things can be confirmed if pictures are challenged?
Yeah, so that's up to the tournament, and we're very transparent with that. The tournament has the ability to enable GPS location and time location inside the image. Mm-hmm. And if that is turned on, then instantly the angler knows that the tournament is collecting that. And which, they agree to in the rules, so it's okay. We also have like I said in the beginning, we're engineers. We actually have a patent on fuzzy GPS because we're fishermen first. And so we also have a way for anglers to share their location without actually sharing the exact location. So it's good enough for the tournament directors to understand that it is in South Carolina, or it is a publicly navigable waterway and not a farm pond. So we can turn that on as well. So you're not seeing which creek you're in or which, reef you're fishing, but you can see within a couple mile radius, depends on how you turn it on, but that the angler is fishing within the correct boundaries.
Yeah, well, that's pretty neat.
That is pretty neat. So state public waters is what you would suggest. So you just say state public waters as far as areas that would be open to fishing?
Yeah, publicly accessible and navigable, I think is the right way to say that, because what you don't want to do is you don't want, there's always, I don't know if there's any, military bases or anything out there, but sometimes they're publicly accessible, but you have to have a military ID to get on there. And you can't necessarily navigate into those sometimes. So there's little ways you can address that kind of stuff, but you don't want somebody that's, farming a state record in their backyard pond. You don't want that to be allowed.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk through that, because we do have, we have in the past worked on accessibility as an issue.
Yep.
For us. And, we wanted kids, the 7-year-old kid that fishes in his backyard to be able to
weigh,
participate and weigh a brim if he wanted to, and to be able to compete against the elite bass angler that's on the river, And so that, to me, that's appealing, but I understand exactly what you're saying, and we'll have to think through.
Maybe.
And we leave it up to the tournament. So that's one of the things, we don't judge any of the fish or interpret any of the rules. Mm-hmm. We are the platform, and we have quite a few brands and tournaments that use third-party judging platform like Real Tournament Management.
Right.
And they can handle a lot of that. But one of the things that our platform does is that every tournament's different, and we do a lot of kids tournaments. We actually have in our code, we have a comment that I won't mention a name because he might be listening, but we have a comment in there specifically for one angler because we thought that we didn't need a max number, but then we had during COVID, we had one angler who you could tell just sat in his backyard and caught 8,000 brim, and he submitted 8,000 brim.
Wow.
So that was great. He did it, but it's one of those things where we never would have expected somebody to submit 8,000 brim in a month.
Super bored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super bored during COVID.
Man.
Yeah.
We had a couple of entrants that fished like that submitted as many fish as they could and weighed as many fish as they could.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested for our listeners. How'd you guys? What's the backstory on your company? How'd y'all get into this?
So, like I said earlier, we all came from the Internet of Things world, and we created technology that sort of helped in the home and specifically in the hospitality, where it was helping with efficiency in that area, and learned a lot in user interactions and technology that needs to happen just in the back end. And when we started working with these large corporations, we learned about scale. And so we look at things a little bit different than just your standard, college project. And when I did this for 15 years on the Internet of Things side, I said, okay, well, this is starting to get boring for me. And I started, looking at what I love to do, and fishing is it. And the connectivity was already in the cars. It was at that point, it was just coming out. The Teslas were just starting, and the boating side of things just didn't have anything. I mean, I lived down in the Gulf Coast, and we had one of our marinas constantly was getting, the boats were constantly getting their equipment stolen. They would just jump on the boat, dump off after they stole the units, and there wasn't really a good security system for a boat, and if it was, didn't really work well. So we actually started the company on a piece of hardware that went on your boat that was a security system, but it was fishing focused. And so it was basically a meteorological device that when you caught a fish, it would collect the barometric pressure where you were at, not a weather buoy that might be 20 miles away. It would collect the water temperature where you're at. And, fishing is a science. And so there's a lot of correlation on the engineering side and the science side with fishing. And not a lot of people think that. A lot of people think it's dumb luck, but there is a lot of science behind the scenes of it.
You don't say.
What was that?
I said you don't say. I was joking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's a reason you catch fish in one spot one day and you go back the next day and they're just not there. There is a reason for that. And the fish don't have a calendar, right? They have their own calendar, and it's all science based. And so, with that, we said, okay, well, this is a great thing to build a company on. And it just sort of spun out of that. And we started, building relationships, and the fishing industry is very small. The brands that we work with, they've never seen what we do before. We were able to provide them some features that they've never seen before. And in our previous world, working with brands like Samsung and Xfinity and T-Mobile and all those companies, this is like, nothing. But in our world, in the fishing world, this is, the fishing world needs to catch up.
Yeah.
And, when we come into things, we think it's very simple, but yet the fishing industry, they're sort of stuck. And there's a lot of challenges that can be solved with the technology, but it's got to be done the right way. And we feel we've done it the right way that sort of doesn't, violate what fishing is. and it doesn't just expose everything about fishing, because fishing, number one, is not a spectator sport. That's one of the biggest issues. There's twice as many anglers as there is golfers, but yet there's so much more money in golfing than there is fishing with respect to brands and sponsors and all that. And so you got to understand why. Why does, all of these big brands want to sponsor golf and tennis, but yet there's so many more individuals in the U.S. that fish than golf? And so that's what we're trying to do, is help that sort of gap and narrow it down to where we can provide, that sort of bridge between the anglers and the brands in a way where you're not sort of breaking what fishing really is.
Well, I mean, that's exciting to me. I've always sort of felt like tournaments in the past were clunky, difficult, especially when we began to try to run our own. And, this brings us into the 21st century, I think. And so everybody that's participated in the Grand Strand Fishing Rodeo should be excited about this, because it's going to be easier. It's going to be fun. There's going to be more prizes. There's going to be more sponsors. And how can you argue with any of that? So really appreciate you guys coming on board with us. Appreciate you coming to talk with us today on the podcast and tell us a little bit about yourself. I am excited about the banquet, English, coming up January 20th at Sarah J's.
Yeah, you guys go ahead and book your ticket. Come on up here and hang out with us.
Yep.
All right. Appreciate that.
We're going to have a few hundred people at Sarah J's, which is a fantastic restaurant.
Beautiful restaurant, beautiful setting.
Yep, on the Marsh in Merle's Inlet. We're going to be there from 4 to 8 on January 20th, and looking forward to growing.
It would be really good to get this set up and have it ready to roll by then, and have a little table set up for everybody that's there to go ahead and sign up for next year.
Well, everybody listening to this podcast needs to have the app, right? I mean, they won't
have the app anyway.
Yeah, we have an iOS app, an Android app, or you can do it just on the web.
What's the name of the app so everybody can look at it?
Yep.
Fishing Chaos. And Chaos is spelled CHAOS.
For those of you in fishing land, Chaos is CHAOS.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's awesome. English, you got anything else for these guys?
Man, I tell you what, that's about it. I know John and Jesse. Well, John in particular has gotten close to one of our former guests on the podcast, JT Tompkins. And how's everything going with JT? I know you've been kind of working as somewhat like myself, as a little bit of a guide. Aren't you excited for JT for 2024?
Oh yeah, JT's great. JT's going to do well in the bass world. He's going to be focusing on not only winning tournaments but also getting in that social world.
That's right. Hey, you and I both know he's got the fishing side of it covered.
Oh yeah, you can run circles around us for sure. No,
exactly. Well, we're looking forward to it. And Jesse, man, I tell you what, you and I are going to get together. You shoot me those emails, and we'll get everything ironed out and get everything you need on my end and get this ball rolling. But we are super excited to get everybody to start downloading that Fishing Chaos app, getting them signed up for the Grand Strand Fishing Rodeo. And we'll have a lot more news coming up over the next month or so, leading up to the start of the tournament for 2024. And probably as we get going, there'll be some changes. But I think all the changes will be really good changes that our anglers and our sponsors are going to really enjoy. And again, I can't thank both of y'all enough and for taking the time to join us. And we will be chatting with y'all very soon.
I appreciate it.
That sounds great. We appreciate you.
All right, Jesse. John, take care. Y'all have a great day, man.
Thank y'all.
You too.
Sounds good.
All right,
Thanks,
bud.
guys.
Later. All right. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. It's going to work great.
This is going to be good.
All right, listen, y'all. Hey, go click, download, like, subscribe, share, do all that thing. You know, Jesse and I did have a long talk, and John and I did the other day on the phone offhand about this, and they love the traffic that they see that we get. They're pretty smart. They know how to check traffic. So they love the traffic that we get here, but we need y'all to help us. You need you to, once again, like, share, subscribe, and make sure you get all your friends on board. New Trilogy Outdoors magazine coming out today, and I'm telling you, the Senator is going to love this edition.
All right.
That is my only that's my only hint that I'm going to give. But you're going to love the January edition, and we'll be back next week. Don't forget Southern Anglers Radio Show every Saturday morning, 8 to 10 on the Gator 107.9, coming to you from the new Pond Road Storage, Trilogy Outdoors, Sparks Toyota broadcast station. And we'll be back next week. We're talking fins, fur, and feathers here on Trilogy Outdoors Podcast.
Trilogy Outdoors Podcast is a product of Trilogy Outdoors Media. All views and opinions of our hosts and guests are not necessarily those of our sponsors. Trilogy Outdoors is produced and edited by Trilogy Outdoors Media. Be sure to follow us on all the podcast platforms as well as our social media pages on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And also, don't forget our other brands, Southern English Radio Show and Walk 'Em All Outdoor Magazine. To find more information, visit TrilogyOutdoorsMedia.com. And remember, if it's anything dealing with fins, fur, and feathers, you're going to find it right here on Trilogy Outdoors.